His tears may have shed for those who resisted his plans for the Poor People's Campaign, or perhaps young Millens who had so violently disrupted the first march of the Memphis, or fought the war in Vietnam. They may have welled up from the burden of leadership. Martin, what is a burden of leadership?
Burden of leadership means like, so a leader has a lot of pressure. It's hard to be a leader. It's easy to be a loser, but it's hard to be a winner and a leader. Okay, so there's a burden. Burden means like the pressure of being a leader. Like, people have to understand there's pressure to be a leader. So like, if a leader sometimes is a little bit scared, it's okay. You have to tell the leader, I understand, okay, but you can do this, because we believe in you. So there's a burden of being a leader. Sometimes you feel like maybe what you're doing is not necessarily the right thing. Martin Luther King's telling his people to go ahead and don't fight back, and things will work out nicely, like the way they are now. But he didn't know at the time that things were going to work out nicely the way they are now. So there's a burden of saying, what if he's wrong, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the burden of leadership. Okay, go ahead.
Of leadership. Martin Luther King had chosen to carry his own shoulders his mission of life. His mission in life. Coretta's expressions of her husband's finale speech is so full of meaning and insight. So intense was the audience's emotional response to Martin's words. She wrote, so high on his own escalation, responding to their excitement. The action and reaction of one to other, that he was overcome. He broke off there. I believe he intended to finish the quotient. His truth is marching on, but he could not. On the following day, April 4th, 1968, Coretta recalled, Martin was almost happy, despite his worry about scheduled marks. Moreover, he was relaxed, joking with his brother A.D. and placing a phone call to his mother. Members of his staff were in good spirits as they met to go over plans for the march, which had been postponed until the following Monday, April 8th. It's April 8th.
April 8th. Today's April 8th. Is today April 8th?
Yeah, I think.
Oh, that's crazy.
Is it April 8th?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Or was it April 9th?
April 8th. It's April 8th.
Yeah.
So what happens today with Martin Luther King?
1968, Martin then had lunch with Ralph Abernathy. They shared catfish and salad, eating from the same plate. When the waiters failed to bring separate settings, Martin rested in his rooms after lunch. His peace burst into the room with good news that March had been approved by the judge overseeing the application. Good news though it was. It made no difference. Members of the staff were in good spirits today, as they met to go over plans for the march. It had been postponed until the following Monday, April 8th, 1968. I already read that. I should be over here. That the march had been approved by the judge overseeing the application. Good news though it was. It made no difference to Martin at that point. He had already made up his mind to march, no matter what outcome. Later, toward evening, Martin and the Reverend Abernathy freshened up and prepared for dinner, Martin told Abernathy he would wait for him on the balcony. Abernathy recalls that he heard Martin talking to Reverend Jesse Jackson. Abernathy was glad to hear the pleasant conversation between the two men, who had earlier expressed differences on several issues. Abernathy listened to the two men talk. Martin on the balcony, Jesse Jackson below. I never forget it, Abernathy writes. I heard a loud crack, my hands jerked reflexively. It sounded like a backfire from a car, but there was just enough to chill my heart. I wheeled, looked out the door, and saw Martin's feet. He was down at the concrete balcony. I bolted out the door and found him up there, face up, scrawled and unmoving, stepped over his frame. I knelt down, gathering him in my arms and patting him on his left cheek. Even at the first glance, I could see a bullet had entered right on his cheek, leaving a small hole. Abernathy comforted his fallen friend, trying to revive him, trying to understand the words for a moment. Martin seemed to be trying to say, but a moment later he was gone. No more words would ever come from the man who moved so many and changed America. Okay.
No, what happened?
Yeah,
No, don't look at the book. What happened?
the two were talking.
They're talking?
Yeah.
No, go back. Go back and read the chapter, read the paragraph before. Go find the paragraph before. Go turn a page over. Go back one page. Okay. Now, start right here. I'll never forget.
Connie. Martin on the balcony and Jesse Jackson below. I'll never forget it, Abernathy writes. I heard a loud crack.
Okay, so listen. He heard a loud crack, right?
Yeah.
All right, go.
And my hands jerked reflexively. It sounded like a backfire from a car, but there was just enough difference to chill my heart. I wheeled, looked out the door, and saw Martin's feet. He was down on the concrete balcony. I bolted out the door and found him there, face up, sprawled and unmoving. Stepped over his frame.
He's unmoving. They stepped over his frame. The guy stepped over him. See why he's not moving. Okay,
Yeah.
go.
I knelt down, gathered him in my arms, and patting him left on the cheek. Even at the first glance, I could see a bullet had entered his right cheek,
Okay.
leaving a small hole. Abernathy comforted his fallen friend, trying to revive him.
Comforted his fallen friend. Okay.
Trying to understand the words that for a moment Martin seemed to be trying to say, but a moment later he was gone. No more words would ever come. A man who had moved so many and changed America.
All right. What happened?
Martin,
Just look at me. What do you think happened?
Abernathy,
What happened to Martin Luther King?
he bolted.
He bolted.
He couldn't talk anymore.
Why?
Because he had to change America.
No.
Yes?
No. Didn't they say a bullet entered his cheek?
Yeah.
Okay, so how do bullets enter your cheek?
By someone shooting it.
Somebody shot him. Somebody shot him.
Yes.
And now they said no more words will ever come out of his mouth. What does that mean? He's dead. They shot him.
If he shot him out of his cheek, wouldn't that...
No, man, they shot him in the face. You don't always live. I tell you, you don't always live when bullets hit you. Humans don't always live. Sometimes if you get shot in the arm, maybe you might live. Sometimes you get shot in the leg, maybe you might live. But you get shot in the chest, the stomach, the face, the cheek, the head. The cheek still, you don't know, it goes in the cheek and then out your head. It could go in your cheek and then out, you know what I mean? Out, blow your whole face off. You know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, your cheek is your face, bro. It's not just like, oh, it just went in the cheek and out the cheek right here. No, it went in your face, in through the cheek, and then up your head and out your eyeball and out your skull. Right? it could. It does. You don't know how the bullet, where it came from. Who knows? Who knows? It could go in the cheek right here. Here's your cheek too.
I thought it would be like, it would be right there and then it would end up right there.
Sure, but what if it's right here? That's a cheek too, right? And then what if it ends up out there, out your ear, right? That's gonna kill you. So bullets kill. That's all I'm saying. Be careful. Okay, go ahead, read. Martin Luther King, look. He's dead. See what? Go back to the part where you're at.
After a flurry of activity, an ambulance came at Martin and rushed to St. Joseph Hospital. At 7:05 p.m., a doctor reported to Riverend Abernathy and another aide that Dr. King was dead.
There.
When Coretta heard that Martin had been shot, she huddled the children and told them what had happened. With Yonda's help, Coretta packed her bags and hurried to the airport. She was in the airport when she heard her name echoing over the public address system. Coretta just knew then that Martin was dead. Accompanying her was the mayor of Atlanta. He asked if she wanted to continue to Memphis or return home. Her immediate concern was that, with tears in her eyes, Coretta wondered how she would tell them what happened. I was afraid by that time I must have heard without them beside them. But when I got home, Dexter and Bernice had been put to bed. Bernice was asleep. Yonda was sitting calmly on the foyer talking on the telephone. Marty was still up, but Yonda followed me to my bedroom and said, "No, I'm not gonna cry. I'm not going to cry. I'm just not gonna cry. Because Daddy's not really dead. He may be physically dead, but his spirit will never die. And I'm gonna see him again in heaven." Despite her determination not to cry, tears followed freely down Yonda's cheeks and asked her mother if she could hate the man who killed her father. Coretta explained to do that her father would not want her to do that. Coretta had very little time to confront her children. The phone rang continuously and sympathetic. Calls were a constant reminder of her loss. President Johnson and Senator Robert Kennedy were among the officials who offered the condolences.
Condolences. They're condolences. Condolences means their apologies. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. Condolences.
Coretta, the plane available to fly Coretta to Memphis, also had 3 phones installed to handle the numerous calls she was now receiving. Harry Belafonte, a well-known singer and a close friend, insisted on staying Coretta's side to share her sorrow and grief. However, most touching incident, Coretta has said that the arrival of Bill Cosby and Robert Culp, then stars of popular TV show I Spy, then came and spent the afternoon playing with the children. Most of the nation's major cities exploded in fury. Riots erupted.
Riots, remember riots?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Riots erupted over 100 places. Washington, D.C. experienced the worst outbreak. More than 700 fires were reported and 10 people died. Deaths across the nation totaled 39. Cities were still disrupted when President Johnson declared April 7th the day of mourning. It was later disclosed that a white man, James Earl Ray, had been arrested. He was tried and convicted for Dr. King's assassination. By 1994, Ray in person was still seeking bail for the murder and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That following Monday, the Reverend Abernathy and Coretta and 3 of her children by her side led nearly 2,000 people in the silent march through the streets of Memphis. Martin was mortalized in Memphis, while his body lay state in Sisters Chapel at Selman's College. The funeral took place at the day at Elbenzer Baptist Church. The church could hold 75 people. 750 of the more than 150 people who want to attend the services. The turnout of the living proof of the broad range of people everywhere. People of the color who affected Martin Luther King mission and message. The Reverend Abernathy conducted the funeral, which was kept short, as Martin had so recently requested on his mountaintop ceremony. At the end of the services, portions of his speech had given at Elbenzer that February were played. His words, anticipating this moment, were deeply moving, and the nation wept. Martin's cast.
When the nation wept, what's that mean?
What?
What's the nation wept?
Does that mean they left?
Wept. You know what wept means?
What?
It means cried. The nation cried. The nation, everybody, the country cried. When you weep, you cry.
Martin's casket was drawn through the streets in the plain wagon of a mule train to symbolize the poor people's campaign. Thousands of people trailed church to the Morehouse College. Even in death, Martin Luther King was still a leading march. 120 million people watched on television, given its size and pace of the mules. The funeral procession took a while to reach the college. At Morehouse, a president of college, Benjamin Mays, presided over the ceremony and delivered clergy. God called the grandson of a slave on his father's side to him and said, Martin Luther, speak to America about war and peace, about social justice and racial discrimination. It is uplifting to the poor and about nonviolence, the way perfecting social change in the world of brutality and war.
Brutality and war. So Martin was about creating peace. Okay, the world was brutal and mean and racist and discriminatory.
Here's a picture of this stone.
We've been there. We've been there, bro. It's in Atlanta. We went there. We have a video. I'll have to show you.
Rev. Martin Luther King Jr. Free at last. Free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. The stone marker. Martin was buried in Southview Cemetery near Grandmother Williams. The words inscribed on the stone marker are those cited by Martin. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last.
Okay, hold on. Right there. Next chapter 10, right? Okay, we'll read that tomorrow.